Hi everyone, in today's video I want to talk to you all about what our plans called truss rods and what we ended up calling blocking. My name is Rob and this is our Avrame Home. As we began standing up the trusses for our home, we overlooked this very important component, which is the blocking that goes between all of the trusses. That first weekend we got the first 4 trusses stood up, and all we had was some temporary strapping, like 2x4s, holding up the trusses and spacing them out. What that resulted in was that the structure itself was really wobbling and swaying with the wind. And so we looked at our plans and saw that the next step was actually to install this blocking between all of the trusses. Well, what a beautiful way to end the day. Giannis and I were just finishing what the plans call truss rods. We've been calling it blocking between each of the different trusses. And we're just up at the peak of the house and the snow started coming down. It was beautiful and terrifying and just like the perfect combination of do-it-yourself construction. But anyway, for those 4 trusses, we now have it blocked in this morning before we started doing the blocking. It was a little bit too rickety for me, at the top it would sway if I leaned on it, and now I can hear that it's shifting, but if you stomp in your house it'll feel like that too, and there's no sheathing on this, so I feel much better about that progress now. So when we look at the plans, we can actually see that it tells me on the bottom half of the structure to install them basically 2 foot on center, and then as you get to the top half of the structure, the spacing kind of changes a little bit. And so from the ground, we could basically attach those blocking between the trusses using these massive screws that were provided in the kit, these engineered screws. You can see these are the screws that I'm putting in right now. They have 2 sets of threads. And so what we were doing is we were marking out that 2 foot on center for the blocking and screwing it into the side. Afterward, when we got up to the second half of it, it got a little bit more scary because I'm not used to working on buildings, and standing just on the joist was pretty uncomfortable. And so we put a sheet of plywood across it, got a ladder on there, and we're able to attach the rest of the blocking. But as we went along, we would stand up a truss and we would install the blocking on that truss as we went. Not only that, but while the truss was still lying down on the ground, we made sure to, using the measurements provided in plans, do the layout so that we knew where where the blocking was actually going to get installed. What I was just doing, you may have seen the time lapse, is laying out where the blocking's gonna go. We learned this after we put up the first 4 trusses, that trying to measure and place them all when it's up in the air is a little bit, it's more work and slightly more dangerous than it needs to be. And so rather than, we tried by making these jigs that we'd screw in and then set the board on and yada yada. Anyway, what we found is that when we just mark it on the ground, it's so much easier. So that's exactly what I did. And a friend of mine, he actually made me a spreadsheet that helps you to add up the intervals and the measurements without having to go to a web browser and search it there. So anyway, I used that spreadsheet, thank you Peter, to mark out exactly where each one of my blocks is going to be. And so you can see the first one is going to be right here at the bottom, and then it's, every 1 foot 11 5/8 there's a line, so that once we actually get this thing lifted up, it's going to be easy enough for me to just put it on the line there. The reason why, so you might be wondering, why do I just have a line? Because oftentimes you'll put a line and an X for the side that is supposed to go on, that the stud or the piece of wood's actually supposed to go on. But what we're doing is we're actually staggering them. So one's above the line, one's below the line. That line just is a marker for what it needs to rest on. And so for every single one of these sets of blocking, there's a line, and first block's on top, second one's below, and then we just stagger back and forth. So that's what I'm doing on this side. The absolute scariest part of this job was at the very peak of the house, right up here. Installing that blocking really had me nervous, but I had my fall arrest harness, and what I did is I actually just tied myself off to the truss that I was working on, so that if I did happen to slip and fall, I'd be able to grab onto the collar tie and pull myself back up. But that was the most nerve-wracking part of the build to this point, was actually installing all of the blocking. This little pile right here that you can see, that's all the blocking, and you can tell if I were to wipe the snow off, there's my hammer here, it's icy. Good thing I tarped it. You can tell that it says right there RD3. And so each block here is sorted into its different type. And on the drawing it tells me what it is. So I come over here, grab it, and so hopefully pretty soon this whole blue tarp is done, because the blocking will be done. Anyway, I'm gonna grab a few more of these and get to work. With each piece of blocking that we installed in the house, it got more and more rigid as we went along, and by the time we were done, the house barely swayed at all. There's still some sheathing to go on the, I believe it's on the inside of the house, the sheathing will go on. And once that's installed, the house won't budge at all. But getting the blocking on, it made me feel a lot better. I'm not nervous when the wind picks up anymore. I know that that house is standing there, that it's not gonna shift, and it doesn't move at all. Well, thanks again for checking out Our Avrame Home, and I want to encourage you to like and subscribe, and possibly share this with someone who you know is considering building their own A-frame, wants to purchase an Avrame kit, or maybe you're in the process right now of building your own Avrame home. I want to encourage you to follow along, because we are going to be going step by step through the entire process as we build our very own Avrame Trio 120 from the ground up. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.